So thanks everyone for joining us for our March product webinar. This month's topic is going to be all about reporting within the Riipen platform itself. Why can't I? There we go. Agenda. Okay. So obviously, yeah. Welcome everyone. We're going to be talking about reporting today. That's our only topic of discussion today. So I'll be giving quite a lengthy demo about all the different ways reporting can benefit you and your school or institution while using the Riipen platform. We are going to have a standalone QA period at the end. Feel free to use the chat or put in Q&A messages as well throughout. And if we think the timing's right, we'll try and answer it as we go, but we'll also hold a room for that Q&A at the end as well. So like I said, today's topic is all about reporting. The main benefits of reporting are really going to be at that portal kind of administration layer. If you're a coordinator at your school or if you're coordinating across multiple experiences on the Riipen platform, this is going to be the most beneficial to you. Individual educators, it's good for you to know what's possible because you may be able to use reporting depending on your portal's configuration as well. But definitely that portal administrator is going to be seeing the most value out of it today. Quick introductions. My name is Jordanelle. I'm our CTO. I'm also one of our co-founders here at Riipen. I oversee all of our product needs here. So hopefully what I'm demonstrating today works well for you and solves a lot of the challenges you might be facing while you're doing project-based learning in and outside the classroom. We also have Shakufe Murati here with us. She's one of our senior product managers. She'll be handling the QA and chat. So feel free to flag her down as you need to if you want to ask a question in a timely manner. So let's talk a little bit about what reporting is before I get into the demo. Riipen has partnered with a business intelligence tool called Metabase, and what that really allows us to do is turn over all of the data from inside of your school portal on Riipen directly to you. And we do that in a handful of ways and with a few different pieces of functionality. So right out of the bat, when we get into reporting, you're going to see when you open it up for the first time, there's just a ton of default reports in there. Those are ones that we've curated for you that we think will just give you some value right out of the box. They're going to come pre-configured with filters and dashboards and visualizations. It's really just to get you started and to get you exploring what's kind of possible with reporting, as well as to kind of see that result. The other things with reporting in here too are it is fully customizable. I'm going to show you as much as I can today in terms of what is possible, but really, your imagination is your only limitation when it comes to reporting. You can basically get answers to any sort of question you want when it comes to project-based learning with this business intelligence tool. And then last of all, too, your reporting functionality is not locked into Riipen. We give you access to raw data within your portal to take with you. If you have other reporting needs at your institution, if you're uploading data, from Riipen into a different piece of reporting software, or something that's coalescing into what other departments are doing, we give you that full functionality as well to take that data with you, either in its raw form, and we also provide the ability to do things like different types of export, like to PDF, so you can create a nice kind of dashboard visualization, export it to PDF, send it around to your colleagues or your leadership team or whoever needs to be seeing that reporting. So with that, I'm going to stop talking generally about reporting, and I'm just going to go right into a demo here. So I'm just going to switch my screen. Okay, so I'm just going to be using the Riipen kind of demo university portal for this, but everything you see here will be exactly applicable to your portals and your reporting infrastructure. So I'm logged in here as a portal administrator. And the first thing you actually need to do to get access to reporting is to just enable it. Every portal within Riipen will have a certain number of reporting seats allotted to it, and that depends on your license with Riipen. The default is at least one seat, so at least one person within your school will have access to reporting, but it could be many more than that. So if you want to assign those seats to someone who's going to be in charge of the reporting within your institution, you're going to come into portal settings and you're going to go to reports. And within here, you can see I've actually already assigned this fake user reporting admin myself to this. But from this page, you'll be able to select any of the educators within your portal and assign them to your seats. This portal only has one seat allowed, so I've already occupied that seat by assigning myself. But this is where you would do that. Once you do that and you refresh your page, you are now going to see this reports tab show up in portal content. And that's going to be how you get into your reporting. So it just gives you a little warning message here that's going to open up a new tab. But you can click launch reports and that'll take you directly into your reporting dashboard, which will look something like this. Well, it'll look exactly like this. So this is that partnered software we talked about, Metabase. It is distinct from Riipen. These are two separate platforms, but all of your data is actually directly accessible inside of this business intelligence tool. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the interface first, and then I'm going to start to go through some of the default reporting that we have. And then we're actually going to build some reports here in real time, and then talk about, further possibilities and all the different data that's available and what you could be doing with that as well. So just talking about navigation very briefly here and what you'll see maybe the first time you launch reporting, or maybe you've already launched reporting before and are just curious about what's going on in here. So like I mentioned earlier, there's kind of different tiers of reporting, different levels. So by default, you're going to have a lot of default reports. When you open it up, you're going to be launched on this kind of default page here with a bunch of different reporting options. I'll come back to them and click into them later, but that's going to be your getting started folder up here. So that's going to have all the default reports that the Riipen team has already curated for you. These ones cannot be edited. We are open to suggestions about what we should be including in the default reports, but for the most part, these are uniform across all the schools who are using Riipen. That being said, you will also have a folder on here with whatever your portal name is here. So I've actually launched into a different portal reporting here for a portal that we call ICT Ignite. It's one of our partnership programs. I'm just using them to demo because they have a lot of data inside them, and it makes for a more useful reporting demo. But you will see your school name pop up here. If you don't see your school name yet, there is one reason for it, and I'll come back to it later. But most likely you will see your school name, but sometimes you won't, and I'll tell you how it pops up later. You'll also see a your personal collection up here. As I show a bit later in the demo, when you're building your own reports, you can actually just build them for yourself. You don't have to share them with the rest of your school or your institution or any other administrators. You can build your own collection and just have it all stored privately as well. Whereas your school/portal folder, that'll be shared across anyone who has access to your portal reporting dashboard as well. And then the final item in here is browse data. This is where we'll go in to see a lot of the raw data that's there in your portal. Think Excel spreadsheets with tables and columns and rows. That's all in there, browse data. We'll talk about that in just a second here. So before we get into the more advanced stuff, let's start with the basics. Let's start with the defaults. Like I said, you're going to be launched into this default kind of dashboard in here. Lots of different things for you to click on in here. Maybe some terminology that you're not necessarily familiar with in here. So while you're exploring the default reporting, you'll be able to see these little eye icons that will tell you exactly what's in this report. They'll give you detailed explanations about, some of the terminology that's involved in them, what it really is, what it'll indicate. But really, the best thing to do would just be to kind of browse through a bunch of these and see what's going on. So I'm just going to jump into a couple of them that I think are interesting and just to give a taste of what's available in the default reporting. We're not going to go through all of them. There's literally hundreds of visualizations and dashboards set up for you by default. So I'll just maybe go into a select 3 or 4 here. So I'm going to jump into this activity overview for companies and matches. I will say when you are loading reports, you saw the little spinners on my screen there. If it's the first time you've ever launched a report, it might take upwards of 3 seconds to load, but then every time after that will be much, much quicker. You saw from you was maybe half a second. But just don't let that first load deter you from anything in reporting. So with that out of the way, so we're looking at companies and matches here. So really I'm looking at, how many companies has my portal interacted with? How many matched projects have I facilitated inside of my portal? So you can see some really basic statistics in here. I've matched with over 149 different unique companies across my portal doing all these different projects. I've matched with 423 projects, which may be good, may be bad, depending on your portal's needs. But the key thing with all of these reports too, all these default kind of top level reports, is you can go into them even deeper. So I can go kind of into all these match projects and go a level deeper and go to matches overview here. So again, I'm seeing a bit more detailed information. I can see, the average number of projects I'm matching to one of my experiences is almost 17. So 17 projects per experience for my students to work on. And then within that too, I can continue to go deeper and deeper into all of these metrics as well. And eventually you end up at just kind of the raw data of what's being presented here. So if I actually just go into matches full details, I'll actually just see a full table of all the projects that I've actually matched with across my entire portal, with some columns pre-configured for you. In a bunch of places in the default reports too, we'll have links like this where it's like go to see this thing on the actual platform, and that'll take you back into the Riipen platform, and you can actually see whatever detail is involved in this particularly matched project. So as you explore through your default reports, keep an eye out for those URLs too if you actually want to see what's happening inside the actual platform itself. You'll also notice too, as I've been kind of going through matches and companies, at the very top of all these dashboards are a bunch of different filters up here as well. So we've created what we think are a bunch of filters that might be able to get you started in all of this. Again, these are all default settings, but if I wanted to, for example, if I only want to look at match projects, from the last 12 months, I can filter by that, and there we go. So very, very quickly get started with these sort of default reports. So I'm going to go back up to kind of my home page here, and I'm going to show maybe a few more of these and what's available in default reporting. So I'm going to go into experiences and learners here. So this will tell me, basic things like how many learners are inside of my portal right now, 716. Great. Maybe something more interesting. What's the average feedback that a learner is getting from an employer once they've completed their project? 4.73 out of 5. I think for me that seems fantastic. It seems like most of the experiences are going through quite well here. And of course, you can also see things with educators and all of that as well. But let's maybe dig a bit deeper into this 4.73 here and just see what's really going on in here. Again, showing me kind of like that next level down here as well. So if you're familiar with what happens at the end of a Riipen project, the students get an overall rating, and then they also get ratings on things like employability and communication skills during the project and their professionalism and all that. So by default, because Riipen captures all those details for me, that's all in here and available to me. And of course, I can filter by the different types of experience that they were in. So if I want to filter this too, if I'm running one really large experience inside of my portal and then maybe a handful of smaller ones, maybe I want to see how that one really big one differs from those small ones in terms of the feedback that's coming in. Or maybe I just, have two different experiences that I'm running. And I just really want to compare them and compare those ratings. So I can easily do that from this page and just by filtering up here. And then once again, too, you can go into the full details of the feedback that's available in here. This one's a bit different. You can see this one, it breaks it down from the feedback from the company to the team of learners itself, and then as well as from that team to the company. So you can actually see what my students are saying about working with certain companies and certain individuals at those companies as well. And all that's available in here as well. I'll go back up to the home page here. We'll show a few more which are interesting. I just very, very briefly talked about kind of, the outcomes of these projects in terms of the feedback that students are getting. But let's look at, maybe some stuff that happens before the students even come on to the Riipen platform. Let's look at maybe a little bit about match requests within my portal itself. So I think, as we're probably all familiar with on here, you post your experience on Riipen, you match with projects, you do that matching through these match requests. I can actually monitor kind of my portal's efficiency here in terms of the match requests and the activity of what's actually happening. So you can see, I've attempted to match 622 times. And then beneath that, it kind of breaks out between match requests my educators have sent versus ones they've received directly from employers as well. And then you can kind of see the outcomes of those as well. So, what this is telling me right here is obviously that, when my educators send a match request, it actually connects 80% of the time. Versus when they receive one from an employer, it only gets accepted about 65% of the time. So I'm actually much more efficient when my educators are being proactive and sending these match requests out. So I can choose to do it with that information whatever I want, but it just kind of quickly breaks down a little bit of the efficiency that's happening here on both sides of the double-sided marketplace. And then, of course, again, I can get the raw data, the full details of those match requests, and just a bunch of filters available for me across the top of it as well. So really good way to quickly monitor how your portal's engaging with that open marketplace. I'll bounce back up to the homepage here. Maybe the last one I'll show is we'll talk a little bit about maybe portal passes. This is an interesting one. So we just kind of saw the efficiency in terms of matchmaking with my experiences to my projects. But maybe I'm a larger school and I have my own private network of companies that I've been working with. As I think we all know here, you can invite your companies into the Riipen platform and basically give them direct access to your portal on Riipen on your own custom subdomain, and give them access to your exclusive experiences and get access to their exclusive projects only for your students and only within your private marketplace. And maybe I want to do some quick reporting on that as well, so I can see all the companies that I've maybe issued a portal pass to here. So you can see I built my company network to 281 active companies right now. And of those, on average, they're posting 1.56 projects to my marketplace. So just objectively looking at this, I think that's quite good. I have a lot of engagement from within my private marketplace, which is really nice. You can see, over 400 projects being posted in total. So those are projects that I'm not relying on the Riipen open marketplace for. These are projects coming from my trusted employers and my trusted company network. You also start to see different visualization techniques pop up in here. So you can see, this portal in particular is working within Canada. So you're actually going to see, most of the companies coming from Canada itself. But then you'll see, different breakdowns of, where these companies are coming from in terms of states and cities and all that kind of stuff. And all that's available to you as well. So a really good way to figure that out. And as we'll show in a little bit, you can actually do the same sort of thing with projects. You can see of all the projects you're matching with, where are they coming from geographically? Are they coming, from, the eastern seaboard of the United States, or, west coast of Canada, wherever they're coming from. But that sort of reporting can be layered on top of this as well. Again, full details, you're probably getting sick of seeing these tables, but you can see all the information about these companies that are within your portal itself. And yeah, that's basically it. So I won't go through too much more of the default reporting. I do encourage you to, once you're in here, poke around, see what's available. There's a lot in there. Again, we don't have time to go over all of it today, but I pretty much guarantee that, 5 to 10 of these things are going to pique your interest. So yeah, good way to just kind of explore and see what's available and see some examples of types of reporting that's going on. So with that, I'm going to leave default reports and I'm going to go into browse data, and we're going to talk about what data is just like really available to you. And then we're going to go in and try and build some custom reporting here. So like I said at the start of this webinar, any piece of data that you can see inside of your portal is available to you within the reporting dashboard. And it's all broken down into tables. If you're familiar with CSVs or spreadsheets, very, very similar concept, columns, rows, all that kind of stuff. Some of these terms you may or may not be familiar with. Hopefully a lot of them in here you are. I'm going to highlight a few of them and tell you kind of exactly what's available to you. So first and foremost, all the way at the bottom, users, your learners, your educators, any employer you've ever worked with. You have access to their data, name, location, all that kind of stuff. Anything that they've put into your portal, you have access to it. So users is a very, very important one to know about. Then kind of going back up to the top here, we have experiences. These are the courses that you're posting on Riipen. I use the term experiences. That is the non-customized term. Your portal might have customized it to program or course or class, but just know that the default wording is experience for it. So all the postings your educators have been doing up there in experiences. Then, of course, counter to that, you have projects. Every project you've ever interacted with on the Riipen platform, whether it's you've only sent a match request that got declined, or it actually did match with one of your experiences, or maybe you've proposed a project to a company, all of those are available in here as long as your portal has interacted with it in some capacity. Other things to be aware of, things we've already seen in the default reporting, match requests, that's in here. Feedback, all the feedback that's going between employers to students, students to employers, employers to educators, educators to employers, all that's available in there. Also keeping in mind that feedback, there's the Riipen default feedback. So, overall rating, communication rating, professionalism, all that kind of stuff. But if you customize your feedback as well, if you want employers to always rate your students on some other core competency that your institution might want to track, all that will become available in there as well. Maybe not applicable to every institution, but as some of you might know, when you are running an experience and you match with a bunch of projects, you might turn on applications for your learners, meaning that learners have to actually apply to those projects, and the employers can interview them or kind of vet them in whatever way they want. All of those application details are available up here. You can get some really interesting statistics when you start to look at, what types of applications were accepted versus which ones were declined, matching that against, project location data, student location data, demographic information, all that kind of stuff. Very interesting. To that point too, probably the most impactful and the most important table that's available in here is surveys. If you've been on these webinars before, you've probably heard me harp on about surveys for a really long time. Sounds like the most boring topic in the world, but this is where it all pays off in here. You build any sort of custom surveys, you ask any sorts of questions, all of that data, all the responses becomes available inside of reporting for you to be able to build any sort of reporting you want around that. Being able to track how a student self-assessed skill X at the beginning of a project versus the end of a project, and then getting sort of calculations on the growth of that skill over the course of the project. Stuff like that all becomes available inside of reporting. And then last but not least, I'll mention portals, which you might think is really weird. You're in a portal, you only expect to really see one row of data inside of here, and to most people on this call, that is true. You're only going to see your portal in here. But the reason I bring this up is if your institution is using subportals. If you've never heard that term, then you're probably not using it. But if you have heard that term, your portal can basically have many children portals beneath it, and your administrators of that kind of parent portal can administrate all of these subportals as well. You will see all of your subportals in here, but more importantly, you'll see all of your subportals data across all of these tables. So if you have multiple subportals beneath you, you'll be able to build reports across all of those subportals very, very quickly as well. So I'll kind of just stop on the browsing data here. If you're curious, poking around in here, clicking into these tables, learning what they mean. Most of them have definitions associated with them. You'll be able to go in and see all the kinds of data that's available within these. This is your raw data in here. The last thing I'll say about kind of the raw data that's available to you is the export functionality. So in the very bottom right corner here, you'll see this little download full results, choose whichever type you want, CSV most common. The other one are Excel spreadsheets, JSON, very less common, maybe unless you're a computer science professor. But you can download these, pop them into an Excel spreadsheet, and then do whatever you want with them, or download them, put them into a different reporting platform if your institution's using something else. But I just wanted to say that's available across all the tables, and you can pull that information whenever you want. So let's go back to home here. And let's try and build a question in real time. Try and build a report here. So I'm going to click new and go to question. The first thing it's going to ask me is, what kind of data do I want to report on here? Let's just look at all the companies that my portal has interacted with. Very simple. You'll notice I don't have to know any code. I just pick companies, good to go. Let's just see what that looks like. I'm going to hit visualize here. And essentially what it's going to give me is the raw data for all the companies my portal has ever interacted with. Not the most interesting thing in the world, but this is also a quick way to just explore the data as well. So, let's maybe go back to here. Maybe I want to know how many companies I've ever interacted with across my portal. So I'm going to go to summarize and just click count of rows. Visualize 287. There we go. So now I know I've interacted with at least 287 companies across the platform. You could start to build potentially more interesting ones. Interacted with is one type of outcome you could look for. How many companies have actually completed projects with me is another one. These sorts of very basic volumetric style reporting that you can do. You can do something called joining data. This is probably, if you're going to pay attention to anything on this call, on this webinar, this is the one. This is the one. Looking at companies and getting counts, that's interesting. But starting to join data together to ask more rich questions is really where your imagination can kind of take hold here. So let's say not only do I want to know about the companies, but I want to know about the projects that those companies are running. And I want to build a report that kind of maybe asks something of both of those sets of data at the same time. Maybe I want to know what types of categories of projects are being run from companies who are located in British Columbia, Canada. I can absolutely do that. And you can click join data here. It'll ask you, we have companies as our base. What do you want to add to this, essentially? I'm going to say projects, and that's all I have to do. It's going to automatically figure out for me how best to merge those two things together and ensure that every project that's reported also has the company information in it. So again, I can click visualize at this point. Essentially, I'll just get an even bigger table at this point with all the company and project information kind of mashed into one here. This actually might take a while because there's a lot of projects. Yeah, there we go. 1,700 projects in total here. But yeah, I mean, we won't go through this whole table. It's probably pretty boring to look at here. But I can start to ask different types of questions. So again, maybe I'll just summarize here and I'll just do a count of rows. So that's going to give me all the projects with the company data attached. And then maybe I want to filter. And maybe I want to filter by, I don't know. That's a good thing to filter by. I mean, really anything. I mean, the most boring thing, the weirdest thing to filter on would be name, I guess. I can type the name of a company into here and get all the projects that company has run with me, along with all the project data and all the company data. I won't actually do that one right now, but we can kind of see how that works. Maybe I'll do a filter by company. I'll just type in created that date here to filter to that. So let's say the project created that date has to be from the last 3 months. There we go. Click visualize. Hopefully this gives me a number. Yes. Some of these things I have not tested before this webinar. So there we go. 491 projects across all these companies from the last year that I've interacted with within my portal itself. Let's maybe go further. Let's join location. So now I'm going to say, I have my company location as well. Let's filter not by company, but by location. Let's go to state/province. And you'll see it's actually it's going to pre-populate all the different things that it has found here. Let's go British Columbia. Again, I hope this gives me some sort of results. I have not tested this. And we'll visualize here. And there we go. So I know that 43 of my projects have come from British Columbia in the last year, which, I may choose to do with that whatever I want with that information. So, interesting, maybe, this is just a demonstration purpose. Lots of other possible things you can do in here. Really, the sky is the limit. I mean, this is the most basic question I could think to build. Again, I can export this. I mean, this is maybe not a very interesting export here, but let's just say, I'm happy with this question. I'm going to use this question in some sort of grander reporting that I'm doing here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to click save on here. And I'm just going to save this as my question. I don't know. I can give it a description. I'm going to save it to my personal collection just because I don't want anyone else seeing this. This is for my own reporting purposes. I'm going to hit save. No, I don't want to add it to a dashboard right now. We're going to come to that in just a second. So now I've saved this question. I can actually come back to it whenever I want. So if I actually open back up my menu and go to my personal collection, here's my question in here right now. I'll go to that and it should just give me the same answer. So now that I've built that question, I can revisit it anytime, change it, apply different filters to it, completely reusable. But let's talk about how we can add this question with other questions. And that's through the use of a dashboard. So I'm going to create a new dashboard up here. I'm just going to call it my dashboard. I'm not skip the description for now. Click create. I am going to now add that question that I just created to this dashboard. So there we go, my question. Just make that a bit bigger so people can see it. You can see how the dashboard's kind of laid out in this grid format. So essentially, I can build any sorts of questions I want, add them to a dashboard, save that dashboard, and then just go to that dashboard and see all my questions that I've saved all at once. And this is where you can see where it starts to become really powerful. Grouping questions together that are all about, learner outcomes into one dashboard, or who the companies are that I'm interacting with and their perceived outcomes of all the different projects they're running. And it really just kind of grows from there. So I'll just save this for now and kind of get out of here. Other things you can do with dashboards too, actually, maybe I'll come back to that before we go deeper into dashboards. I do want to show a more maybe real question, probably maybe a more interesting question. So I actually went into this portal last night and just thought, maybe what's one of the most interesting questions I could potentially build in here. And this portal has a few things going on in it that are interesting, but probably the most interesting is at the end of every project, they are surveying the employers. And they ask them 25 questions or so, but maybe the most important question they're asking them is, have you hired or would you consider hiring the student who completed this project for you? And I actually built two different questions out of here. So one I called possible hires. So every time the survey was issued here, what was actually selected. So you're going to see, the survey responses that are in here. So it actually got responded to 9 times. And you can see all the raw data. So, you can see there's kind of a mixture of no's and yeses, but asterisks in here. Yes, I've hired them. Yes, I would consider to hire them, but cannot hire them right now. Again, that is totally set at the survey level. I can ask any sort of question and give any sort of option that I want. So you can see it's been issued 9 times. But maybe more interestingly is, how many have said yes to that question. So I basically built a second question that gives me the same results, but it filters it to any parts of my answer that say yes in them. So if I've set up my survey to always start with yes and then the condition after it, I can easily filter to that. I can, build exact filters. So say, yes, I have hired them. Maybe I only care about those. And there's 3 out of the 9 instead of 7 out of the 9 being yes with some condition on them. But yeah, I thought this was maybe the most types of interesting questions. I think, as school administrators, hiring outcomes is one of the biggest challenges we face in terms of tracking. So, here's a very, very clear way to do that. And I can actually build a dashboard out of these questions. I can come onto here and actually click, maybe I want to modify this question in some way and actually just get a raw count of it. So this is actually my question in here now. But maybe I actually want to summarize that and just get a count, right? Then I can put that into a dashboard. Uh-oh, did my browser just freeze? Oh, there we go. Sometimes screen share doesn't work so well. but lots of different possibilities in here. I realize I have been talking now for 36 minutes, which is kind of where I want to pause the demo. There's lots of other things I could show in here in terms of different types of visualization, different things like exporting. Oh yeah, I want to discover my changes. Exporting to PDF. You can adding filters. I didn't really show that, or how to make those filters show up on top of dashboards. But I will pause here in case there are any questions. And if there's not, I'll just continue on for like maybe the last 5 minutes and show some of that last bit of functionality.
No questions have come through the chat or the Q&A yet, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them now for Jordan.
We'll pause for 30 seconds in case anyone wants to type anything out. And if I talked about anything that I maybe glossed over really quickly that you want maybe a better explanation on, you can feel free to post that as well. Shikufe, maybe just tell me if anything comes in, and aside from that, I'll just keep going here and show off some of the last bit of functionality.
Sounds good.
So I'm actually just going to go back into my personal collection here, and let's go to this dashboard that I built. You know, maybe not the most interesting dashboard in the world, but let's say, you know, I've compiled a dashboard of, you know, my top 10 questions that I need to report to my leadership team. You know, here's how project-based learning is going with Riipen across the whole school. Obviously, you know, maybe you don't want to send them into the reporting platform or even the Riipen platform at all. So the best way to actually do that is to come up here and go to export to PDF. And I think that should work. Obviously, it just gives you an exact PDF of everything you're seeing. Hopefully you saw it. You can see my new tab now. But very, very easy to export to PDF, send that PDF around to your colleagues, you know, to your bosses, bosses, whoever it is. Very, very easy way to share that. I will say that you can do that same sort of thing as well with all the default reports as well. So anytime you come into really and view any dashboard, you'll be able to do that export to PDF functionality. So even if you just want that very basic level of reporting, that's definitely available to you in there as well.
Jordan, we have two questions that have come up. One from Raymond. Any unique examples of DIY reports that a client has created in the past? And we also have a Q&A from Jason under getting started, detailed reports. Can you export any of these reports into a CVS or the sheets? The export to PDF seems to only export one single page of this report.
Yeah, okay, so two questions there. Let me go 1 and 2 here. Sorry, now I forget the, yeah, so the first question is about the DIY reports. So that's a great question. That's actually what I wanted to end on, but let's do it now. Everything I'm showing, you know, you might be like, oh my God, this is super overwhelming. Like, I'm never going to go in and build these reports myself. Like, can't someone else do this for me? The answer is yes. And Raymond, this is probably to your question more than anything. Everything I just showed you today, you can contact your account manager or any of your customer service representatives and say, hey, I need a report that tells me this. You will have one built for you. It'll appear in your school folder the very next time you log in. And we are happy to continue to collaborate and, you know, expand on those reports whenever you want. So actually the best way to get started from a DIY is just to ask. Contact your account manager and say, hey, can I get a report that shows me this? There's a chance that a default report already exists for that, in which case they might just send it to you. But if it doesn't exist, we will build one custom for your school to do that. Raymond, so yeah, I mean, in terms of the DIY reports, there are some. I don't really want to show them on the webinar because all the ones I showed today, I practiced last night and make sure that there was no really personal information that we wanted to show here. I can't guarantee that I could bring up another school portal's reports and not accidentally show off some PII that I shouldn't be showing off and upset that school. So I don't really want to show those off. They do exist. There's a lot of them. And yeah, ask your account manager for any reports. Obviously, if you're technically inclined and want to explore, definitely go for it. But again, the easiest way is to just ask your account manager. Hopefully that answered Raymond's question. Jason, oh, it looks like he just answered his own question. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the export export to PDF, exactly as Jason pointed out, will basically give you exactly what's on the page. So if you're looking at, let me just see if I can just get to one quickly here. If you're looking at a full details kind of report, like a table view that has multiple pages like this, export to PDF is not your friend. It's only going to give you this first page of results, which is probably not what you want. What you can actually do is click in the actual subheading of that, and that'll take you to the actual question itself, like the raw question, and then from in there you can actually click download. I know we don't have enough time to talk about all the little details of navigation of this tool, but yeah, I should mention that all the dashboards you see, all they are just groups of questions. You can always click into the individual question to see what's going on in there and see the raw data and do that export as well. So hopefully that answered any other questions there might be for that. Okay.
No more questions.
Awesome. We only have 3 minutes left, so I'm just gonna maybe just kind of wind down here and say again, if this is interesting to you, if you want to learn more about this, definitely contact your account manager, and they'll be able to get any sort of reporting requests in. If there's anything you took away from today, 2 things: joining data is extremely powerful, and then maybe the second thing to take away is the power of surveys. You can ask whatever questions you want and then have built or build yourself any sort of reporting you want on top of those. So obviously the most common ones are employability and hiring tracking after the fact of the project, skills tracking on projects, overall satisfaction with projects, and tracking that pre, mid, and post project. And this is really where the sky is the limit, and you as portal administrators can really kind of let your imagination fly on these surveys. Again, we are happy to help you build reporting however you want. If you have very specific questions or just want to follow up on anything you saw today too, you should have my email from the webinar invite. If you don't, jordan@riipen.com. Feel free to send me a message whenever you want. But that's it. That's our reporting webinar. And thank you so much for everyone who's joined. And hopefully we'll see you again next month for the next topic. So thanks everyone.